Hi there, Doc. Today we're on number fourth thing you need to do in order to get ready for 2014. And unfortunately, it's probably the most boring of all the steps, but it is a necessity. It's something you have to do. So today we're going to be talking about checking your office policies and procedures. So this isn't about your patient procedures, your new patient procedures. This is about your employee procedures, your employee handbook, your office manual, whatever you choose to call it, compliance. None of that stuff's fun, but it's essential to run a business. There's no top-notch organization out there that doesn't have a list of all their policies, their directions, and their basic rules in place. There's no team that doesn't have a playbook, and this has become your playbook, if you will. So I'm going to tell you that the clearer you can make your office system manual, and in writing, whether it's printed out as a hard copy or if it's just on your website in a secure location, and all of your staff has to agree that they saw and agree that they read. However you do that, the clearer you can make it, the better results you're going to get from your team. And obviously it has to comply with all your state and federal laws, so certainly go look at those things and make sure that your anti-discrimination and your wage rules are all in place, and make sure that you're protecting yourself there, which is very, very important. But the most important thing for me is to make sure that there are very clear written duties and checklists for every position in your office. So whether you have one staff or 30 staff, each position should have very, very clear things that's expected of them. Very, very clear rules, very, very clear tasks, and then a checklist to go along with it. And that checklist is probably the most important thing to me, is to make sure that they not only know that it's there, but they actually use it. At the end of the day, they initial the things that they did, and if they missed a couple things, that's not the end of the world. But if they lie to you and tell you they did something, they didn't do it, that's cause for some sort of a consequence, which we'll talk about here in a second. So get those written rules in place, get your checklist in place, and again, make sure that every position knows exactly what's expected from them over the course of the day. Which again, if you have multiple staff, becomes important too if somebody's out sick. Then someone else has to take over their job. If they have a checklist, they know what to do. If they don't have that checklist, then they're just flying by the seat of their pants, and that day is not going to be as productive as it could be. So get those checklists in place, and more important than that is to put together for non-compliance. What are the consequences? Whether it's negligence or whether it is non-compliance or whether it's just willful disregard to your rules, you've got to have consequences in place for those. First warning, second warning, third warning, termination type of stuff. If you don't have those spelled out, you could be in for some trouble with the employment boards if you decide to let someone go without following the right rules. And again, that's obviously probably more important for bigger companies with lots of staff than it is for smaller ones, but it's not necessarily true. Obviously, one person can take down a small corporation just as easily as someone that has multiple employees. So if you only have one employee, you should still be following those rules, the rules you set forth and you agreed on with those employees. So make sure you get your office manual in place, checklist, very, very clear. And beyond that, we have to talk about HIPAA and your compliance manuals and your Medicare manuals. All those things have to be in order. And again, probably more important, you have multiple doctors, multiple physicians on providers, simply because you've got to all be consistent with that stuff. But it's very important for the single provider as well. We don't know what's happening in the government these days, but those things are very important. If something goes wrong, you want to make sure that you have your manuals and you're clear about everything, the way that you do your business, and obviously have your attorney look it over. So the reason I'm recommending that now, again, it's just a time of year that we're doing these 9 steps to prepare ourselves. This seems like a boring task, and it kind of is. It really won't take you as long as you think it might, though. Just put a little bit of effort towards it every day for a week or two, and you'll really knock it out pretty quickly, and you'll feel better that you have it done. So not the most fun task of all as far as building a practice, but the last thing you want to do is spend all next year building a practice just to have it torn down by an employee because our written manual wasn't in place. So take the time, do what's necessary, and you'll feel a lot better. You'll sleep better at night knowing that it's taken care of.